My name is David Martinez, and for 27 years, I've been the disappointing son in a family that measures success in luxury cars and country club memberships. My younger brother, Ryan, understood the game from birth. He was the golden child, quarterback in high school, business degree from a prestigious university, engaged to Jessica Monroe, whose father owned a chain of car dealerships across 3 states. Ryan worked in pharmaceutical sales, drove a leased BMW, and lived in a luxury apartment complex with a gym he never used and a pool he posted on Instagram constantly. My parents, Robert and Linda Martinez, were middle-class drivers who'd built their identity around appearances. Dad managed a regional sales office. Mom worked in real estate. Together they made decent money, but not enough to truly afford the lifestyle they performed. They drove leased luxury cars, took cruises they financed with credit cards, and attended charity events where they'd bought the cheapest tickets but dressed like major donors. Ryan fit perfectly into their world. I didn't. After college, I took a job at a small tech startup in the city. The salary was modest, $65,000 a year, but I received equity, 3.2% of the company. My parents were horrified. Stock options. Dad said when I told them, "David, that's not real money. You can't eat stock options." "The company has potential," I replied. "Every startup thinks they have potential," Mom interjected. "90% of them fail. You should have gone into pharmaceutical sales like Ryan. He made $80,000 his first year, plus commission." Ryan, 23 at the time and fresh out of college, smirked from across the dinner table. "I'm just saying, bro, you could have done better. But hey, follow your dreams or whatever." The startup was called TechCorp, and we were developing cloud-based cybersecurity software for enterprise clients. It was boring work to explain at family dinners, and I stopped trying after the 3rd time Mom's eyes glazed over when I mentioned distributed denial of service protection. "So you're basically IT support," she'd concluded. "Not exactly, but sure." Over the next 4 years, the family dynamic calcified around a simple narrative. Ryan was successful, and I was struggling. Never mind that Ryan's luxury apartment cost 60% of his take-home pay, or that his BMW was leased with a payment that kept him perpetually broke between commission checks. He looked successful, and in my family, appearance was everything. Meanwhile, I lived in a modest 1-bedroom apartment in a neighborhood my mother called transitional, which was her polite way of saying not impressive enough to mention to friends. I drove a 7-year-old Toyota Camry. I wore khakis and button-downs from Target. By my family's metrics, I was failing. What they didn't know was that TechCorp was exploding. Our cybersecurity software had caught the attention of major corporations. We'd landed contracts with 3 Fortune 500 companies in year 2. By year 3, we'd closed a Series B funding round at a $380 million valuation. Year 4 brought us to $840 million after a major acquisition by one of our competitors that we'd successfully defended against, proving our technology's value. My 3.2% equity stake, which my parents had dismissed as worthless, was now worth approximately $26.8 million on paper. And 6 months ago, I'd been promoted to Chief Operating Officer, making me the 2nd highest-ranking executive in the company. My salary was $420,000 annually, not counting bonuses or my equity appreciation. I didn't tell my family any of this. It started as simple privacy. I was too busy to deal with their questions and judgments. But as time went on and their dismissals continued, I realized something. Their perception of me revealed everything about their values and nothing about my actual worth. Still at that startup. Dad would ask every few months. "Still there?" "You know, Ryan's company is always hiring. Good benefits. Real salary." I could put in a word. "I'm good, Dad. Thanks though." Ryan's condescension grew as he achieved each conventional milestone. His engagement to Jessica Monroe was announced at a party my parents threw, inviting everyone they'd ever met. Jessica was pretty, blonde, and came from money, real money, not the performed kind my parents aspired to. Her father owned Monroe Auto Group, 15 dealerships selling luxury cars. Her mother sat on charity boards and hosted fundraisers. At the engagement party, Jessica made her opinion of me clear. "So David, Ryan says you work in computers." She said computers the way someone might say sanitation. Something like that. That's nice. It must be hard, though. The tech industry is so unstable. All those layoffs. She touched Ryan's arm. I'm so glad Ryan has a stable career. Ryan nodded. Pharmaceutical sales is recession-proof. People always need medicine. 3 months ago, Ryan and Jessica got married. The wedding was extravagant, 250 guests, designer dress, reception at the most expensive venue in the city. My parents paid for part of it, going into debt they couldn't afford to maintain appearances. The Monroes paid for the rest, and Jessica's father made sure everyone knew it during his speech. I was in the wedding as a groomsman, largely because excluding me entirely would have raised questions. But my role was minimal, and Jessica made sure I understood my place. The groomsmen photos will be in the reception hall, she told me during rehearsal. Try to. I don't know, stand up straight? Look successful? My family will be judging everything. At the reception, I was seated at a back table with distant cousins and Ryan's college friends who barely knew me. The head table featured Ryan, Jessica, both sets of parents, and Jessica's siblings, all successful by conventional metrics. All driving the right cars, wearing the right brands, working the right jobs. I ate my overpriced chicken, congratulated my brother, and went home early. Nobody noticed while my family planned holidays and celebrated Ryan's conventional success. I was building something they couldn't comprehend. TechCorp's Series C funding round closed at a $1.2 billion valuation, officially making us a unicorn startup. We weren't just growing, we were dominating the enterprise cybersecurity market. Major corporations were signing multi-year contracts worth millions. My team had expanded to include 3 department heads and 6 to 7 employees across operations, human resources, and strategic planning. As COO, I oversaw everything except the technology itself. I managed vendor relationships, negotiated contracts, built our operational infrastructure, and led our expansion into international markets. The CEO, Marcus Chen, was the public face and technical visionary. I was the operator who made everything actually work. You're the reason this company runs, Marcus told me after we closed a $15 million contract with a telecommunications giant. I invent. You execute. That's the partnership. My equity stake had grown through additional grants and the company's valuation increases. I now owned 4.1% of a $1.2 billion company, putting my net worth at approximately $49.2 million on paper. My salary had increased to $485,000, plus annual bonuses that averaged another $200,000. I'd moved out of my transitional neighborhood a year ago and bought a modern townhouse in the downtown historic district. 3 bedrooms, rooftop deck, 2-car garage. I paid cash, $680,000. I still drove my Toyota Camry because it was reliable and I didn't care about impressing people at stoplights. But I'd started dressing better. Custom suits for client meetings. A Rolex my CFO had convinced me to buy. Nice shoes. When you're negotiating 8-figure contracts, appearance does matter, just not the way my family thought. I didn't tell them about any of it. Family dinners became less frequent as I traveled more for work. When I did attend, the dynamic never changed. David's still doing his computer thing, Mom would explain to relatives. How's that going? They'd ask politely. He seems happy, she'd reply in a tone that suggested happiness was a consolation prize for lack of real success. Meanwhile, Ryan's life was becoming complicated in ways the family couldn't see. He'd been passed over for a promotion twice. His territory had been reduced after a bad quarter. Jessica had expensive tastes and her father's money came with expectations. They had to live in the right neighborhood, drive the right cars, join the right clubs. Ryan's pharmaceutical salary couldn't support it, so they were leveraging credit and family help. But they looked successful, and that's what mattered. The breaking point came in mid-November, 3 weeks before Christmas. TechCorp was preparing for a major hiring push. We'd just closed a massive contract with a healthcare conglomerate, $23 million over 3 years, and needed to expand our sales team rapidly. Marcus asked me to lead the recruitment effort. We need 10 new enterprise sales representatives, he said. Experienced people who can handle Fortune 500 accounts. Pharmaceutical background would be good, they understand selling to large, regulated industries. I posted the positions on LinkedIn and our company website. The salary range was $95,000 to $140,000 base plus uncapped commission and equity grants. For the right candidates, the total compensation package could exceed $250,000 annually. 2 days after posting, I received an application that made me pause. Ryan Martinez. My brother was applying to work at TechCorp. I read through his application carefully. He had 6 years of pharmaceutical sales experience, consistently good numbers, and solid references. He'd mentioned in his cover letter that he was looking to transition into the more stable and lucrative tech industry, and had connections to decision-makers in healthcare sales. It was actually a strong application. Despite everything, Ryan was good at sales. He was charismatic, persistent, and understood how to read clients. He'd be a legitimate asset to our team. But he had no idea I was the COO of the company he was applying to. I forwarded his application to our HR director with a note: strong candidate. Let's bring him in for an interview. I'll sit in on the final round. The HR director knew Ryan was my brother. She'd done background checks on all executives and their families for security purposes. She looked at me carefully when I made the request. "Are you sure?" she asked. "I'm sure. If he's qualified, he deserves a fair shot. But I want to be in the room when he realizes who I am." She smiled slightly. "Understood." The text message arrived on a Wednesday evening while I was reviewing Q4 projections in my home office. "Ryan, hey bro, about Christmas at Mom and Dad's." I waited. The ellipsis appeared and disappeared several times before the next message came through. "Ryan, Jessica and I have been talking. Her family is coming this year and it's going to be kind of a big deal. Her dad, her brothers, her sister and her husband. Ryan, they're all super successful. Like, her brother-in-law is a partner at a law firm. Her sister runs a non-profit. You know?" Another pause. "Ryan, Jessica thinks it might be better if you skip Christmas this year. Just to avoid any awkward questions about what you do or whatever." I stared at the message for a long moment. Then came the follow-up. "Ryan, I know that sounds harsh, but her family is really judgmental about success and careers. They're old money. They have expectations. And honestly, having to explain that you work at a startup that might not even exist next year, it would just create uncomfortable conversations. Ryan, Mom and Dad agree. Dad said it might be for the best." I sat back in my Herman Miller office chair, $1,400, ergonomic, the kind of furniture successful people buy, and felt something shift inside me. Not anger. Not even hurt. Just clarity. My brother was uninviting me from Christmas because my poverty might embarrass his wife's wealthy family. I opened the family group chat and saw that Dad had indeed replied to Ryan's message. "Dad, Ryan's right. It might be easier this way. David, you understand. Mom, we can do something with you another time, sweetie. After the holidays." I typed a single word: understood. Then I opened my email and checked the interview schedule our HR director had sent me. Ryan's first-round interview was scheduled for Friday, 2 days away. If he passed, his final round interview with the executive team would be the following Monday. 3 days after Christmas. But Ryan didn't need to wait that long for the truth. I called our HR director from my home office. "Diane, it's David. Ryan Martinez's interview on Friday. Can we move it to Monday instead? I want to be available for his first round, not just the final." "You want to be in his initial interview?" She sounded surprised. "I do. Let's make it the full executive panel from the start. Me, Marcus, and the VP of sales. Let's see what he's really made of." "David, are you?" "I'm sure. Schedule it for Monday, 10 a.m. Tell him he's being fast-tracked due to his strong application. Make it sound prestigious." She paused, then said quietly, "This is going to be quite a Christmas present. It's the gift of truth, Diane. Everyone deserves that." I spent the weekend working, as I often did. TechCorp's growth meant constant demands, client calls, contract reviews, strategic planning sessions. But I also spent time preparing for Monday's interview. I reviewed Ryan's application thoroughly. Despite my personal feelings, I had a responsibility to the company to conduct a fair assessment. If Ryan was genuinely qualified, he deserved the job. If he wasn't, he deserved an honest evaluation. His sales numbers were solid. 6 years of consistent performance in a competitive industry. His references, when I checked them through back channels, were genuinely good. One former manager called him one of the best relationship builders I've supervised. Ryan was actually a good candidate. That made everything more complicated. Sunday afternoon, Mom called. David, honey, I wanted to check in. You seemed so understanding about Christmas. I said I understood. I know this must be disappointing. But you have to see it from Jessica's perspective. Her family has certain expectations. They own a very successful business. They're used to being around successful people. I understand, Mom. Ryan just wants to make a good impression. This marriage is important to him. Jessica's father has already offered him a management position at one of the dealerships if pharmaceutical sales doesn't work out. That's good for Ryan. It is. See, this is why he needs to be strategic about these things. The right connections matter. The right family matters. You're right, Mom. Connections are everything. I'm so glad you understand, sweetie. We'll do a nice dinner after the new year, just us. Maybe we can help you update your resume? Dad knows some people in pharmaceutical sales. It's not too late for you to have a real career. Thanks, Mom. I'll think about it. After I hung up, I sat on my rooftop deck watching the city lights. My townhouse was in one of the most desirable neighborhoods in the city. From here, I could see the financial district, the river, and the gleaming tower where TechCorp's offices occupied floors 38 through 41. Tomorrow, Ryan would walk into that building for his interview. He'd take the elevator to the 40th floor. He'd be escorted to our executive conference room, the one with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, the one with the $40,000 custom table and the video conferencing system that could connect to our offices in London and Singapore simultaneously. And he'd see me sitting at the head of that table. I wasn't doing this for revenge. I was doing it because truth matters. Because assumptions have consequences. Because my family had spent years measuring my worth by their limited metrics, and it was time they understood how wrong they'd been. Not because I needed their validation, but because they needed to confront their own values. Monday morning arrived with perfect December clarity. I dressed in one of my custom Tom Ford suits, charcoal gray, perfectly tailored, paired with a white shirt and a burgundy tie. My Rolex, polished shoes, and the confidence that comes from knowing exactly who you are. I arrived at TechCorp at 8:30. Our offices occupied the upper floors of the Pinnacle Tower, the newest and most prestigious building in the financial district. The elevator required a key card after the 35th floor. Executive parking was in the private garage. Morning, Mr. Martinez, the security guard said as I walked through the lobby. Morning, Jerome. How's your daughter doing? Started at State University last week. She's loving it. Thank you again for the scholarship recommendation letter. She earned it. Let me know if she needs anything. I took the executive elevator to 40, walked through our reception area with its commissioned art and our company logo in brushed aluminum, and headed to my corner office. Floor-to-ceiling windows on 2 sides. Sitting area with designer furniture. Private conference room attached. At 9:45, Diane called me. Ryan Martinez is here. He arrived early. Should I bring him up? Give him the full tour first. Show him the engineering floor, the sales bullpen, the executive amenities. Let him see what he's interviewing for. Will do. See you at 10. At 9:58, I walked into the executive conference room. Marcus was already there, our CEO, 42 years old, wearing his standard uniform of expensive jeans and a blazer. Our VP of Sales, Patricia Chen, no relation to Marcus, sat reviewing Ryan's application on her tablet. She was 51, formerly a sales director at Oracle, and one of the most respected professionals in enterprise sales. Are we ready for this? Marcus asked me quietly. We're evaluating a candidate, I replied. That's all we're doing. David, he's your brother who just uninvited you from Christmas for being too poor. Which is why we're going to be scrupulously professional. If he's qualified, he deserves fair consideration. If he's not, he deserves honest feedback. My personal feelings don't enter into it. Patricia looked up from her tablet. For what it's worth, his application is strong. If he interviews well, I'd seriously consider him for the team. Then let's find out, I said. At exactly 10 a.m., the conference room door opened. Diane walked in first, followed by Ryan and Jessica. My brother wore his best suit, a navy Hugo Boss that I recognized from his wedding. Jessica wore a cream-colored dress and heels, her blonde hair perfectly styled. She'd come along, apparently, either for support or to network. Ryan's face showed confidence as he walked in. Then he saw me sitting at the head of the conference table. His face went pale. All color drained from his features. His mouth opened slightly. He actually stumbled, catching himself on the back of a chair. Jessica, oblivious, smiled professionally at everyone. Hello. Thank you so much for meeting with us. Ryan is so excited about this opportunity. She turned to Ryan, noticed his expression, and followed his gaze to me. David, she said, confused. What are you doing here? I stood up and extended my hand across the table, keeping my expression neutral and professional. Ryan, Jessica. Thank you for coming in. I'm David Martinez, Chief Operating Officer of TechCorp. These are my colleagues, Marcus Chen, our CEO, and Patricia Chen, our Vice President of Sales. Ryan couldn't speak. He stared at me like I'd materialized from another dimension. Marcus, to his credit, played it perfectly. He stood and shook Ryan's hand firmly. Please, have a seat. We're excited to discuss this opportunity with you. Patricia gestured to the chairs across from us. Your application was very impressive, Ryan. We don't often fast-track candidates to executive panel interviews, but your pharmaceutical sales background and client relationship experience are exactly what we're looking for. Jessica sat down mechanically, still staring at me. Ryan lowered himself into a chair like he was afraid it might collapse. I don't understand, Ryan finally managed. You're the COO. I am. I've been with TechCorp for 7 years. Started as a senior analyst, promoted to Director of Operations, then VP, and finally COO about 18 months ago. But you work at a startup. You drive a Camry. You live in. I drive a paid-off Camry because it's reliable and I don't particularly care about impressing people at stoplights, I interrupted calmly. I live in a townhouse in the historic district that I bought with cash. And yes, TechCorp is technically still a startup, though at a $1.2 billion valuation, we're well past the risky early stage. Jessica made a small sound. Marcus leaned forward, his expression friendly but professional. I think there's been some confusion about what we do here. TechCorp provides enterprise cybersecurity software to Fortune 500 companies. We have 93 corporate clients, including 7 of the top 10 healthcare companies in the country. Our annual recurring revenue is approximately $280 million. We employ 317 people across 4 offices globally. David runs all of that, Patricia added. Every operational aspect of this company goes through him. When we closed our $23 million contract with CareHealth last month, David personally negotiated the terms and managed the implementation timeline. Ryan's eyes were wide. $23 million. It's a 3-year contract, so approximately $7.7 million annually, I clarified. They're purchasing our premium security package for their entire network infrastructure across 42 hospitals and 213 clinics. I opened the folder in front of me, Ryan's application. But we're not here to discuss my role. We're here to discuss yours. Your application indicates 6 years of pharmaceutical sales experience with consistent performance. Your references speak highly of your relationship-building skills. Why are you interested in transitioning to technology sales? It was a standard interview question, but in this context, it carried weight. Ryan struggled to find words. The tech industry seems more stable. More growth potential. Interesting, Patricia said, making a note. Because pharmaceutical sales is typically considered extremely stable. Can you elaborate on why you perceive tech as more stable? Jessica found her voice. Ryan has been telling me that his current industry is facing challenges. Increased regulations, pricing pressures. He wants to position himself somewhere with more long-term opportunity. That's strategic thinking, Marcus acknowledged. The enterprise software sector is indeed growing rapidly. Our industry is projected to expand by 23% over the next 3 years. David, What's your assessment of the sales role requirements? He was putting me in charge of the interview, making sure Ryan understood exactly who held the power here. Enterprise sales at Tech Corp requires several key competencies, I said, looking directly at my brother. First, the ability to understand and articulate complex technical solutions. Our clients are making multi-million-dollar decisions. They need sales representatives who can explain not just what our software does, but why our specific approach to distributed network security is superior to our competitors. Ryan nodded, trying to regain his composure. Second, I continued, the ability to navigate corporate hierarchies and build relationships with C-suite executives. You'd be selling to CTOs, CIOs, and CEOs of major corporations. People with significant technical knowledge and very high expectations. I've sold to hospital administrators and insurance executives, Ryan said, his voice steadier now. I understand high-stakes sales. That's valuable experience, Patricia acknowledged. But David makes a good point about technical knowledge. How comfortable are you with cybersecurity concepts? Have you dealt with enterprise software before? I learn quickly, Ryan replied. And I've always been good at understanding what clients need and positioning solutions accordingly. It was actually a decent answer. Despite the shock of the situation, Ryan was recovering. His sales skills were kicking in. We continued the interview for another 40 minutes. I asked about his sales methodology, his approach to long sales cycles, his experience with contract negotiations. Patricia pressed him on territory management and quota achievement. Marcus asked strategic questions about market positioning and competitive differentiation. Ryan answered well. Not perfectly, but competently. He was a genuine sales professional, and it showed. Jessica sat quietly, her expression cycling between shock and calculation. I could see her mind working, recalibrating everything she thought she knew about me, about my family, about what this meant for her and Ryan. Finally, Patricia closed her notebook. Ryan, thank you for your time today. You've given us a lot to consider. David, do you have any final questions? This was my moment. I could humble him. I could ask pointed questions about judgment and assumptions. I could make him squirm. Instead, I chose truth. Just one question, I said, looking at Ryan directly. Why didn't you tell me you were applying here? The conference room went silent. Ryan's face flushed. I didn't know you worked here. That's my point. You didn't know where I worked. You didn't know what I did. You didn't know anything about my actual life or career. You just assumed I was unsuccessful because I didn't perform success the way you understood it. David. Ryan started. I'm not angry, I interrupted. I'm making an observation. You built an entire narrative about my life based on external markers. My car, my clothes, the fact that I didn't brag about my job. You assumed poverty. You assumed failure. You assumed I'd embarrass your wife's family. Jessica's face went red. And based on those assumptions, I continued calmly, you uninvited me from Christmas. Your text said my poverty would make her family uncomfortable. Dad agreed it was for the best. Neither of you asked about my actual financial situation or career trajectory. You just assumed. Marcus and Patricia sat quietly, letting me speak. So my question is this. If you couldn't accurately assess your own brother's situation despite having known me for 27 years, how will you assess the needs and circumstances of clients you've just met? How will you avoid making assumptions about what they need, what they can afford, or what problems they're trying to solve? It was a legitimate business question wrapped in a personal confrontation. Ryan knew it. Everyone in the room knew it. Ryan struggled. I made a mistake. About you. About everything. Yes, you did. But that's not necessarily disqualifying for this job. Everyone makes mistakes. The question is whether you learn from them. I closed his application folder and stood up, signaling the interview was ending. Thank you for coming in, Ryan. We'll be making hiring decisions over the next week. We have several other candidates to interview, but you'll hear from us one way or another by the end of December. He stood slowly, still processing. David, can we talk? Outside of this. We can. But not today. Today you came here as a job candidate, and that's how I'm treating you. We'll deal with family stuff separately. I shook his hand professionally. Then Jessica's, though she flinched slightly when I took her hand. It was good to meet you both, I said, as if we were strangers. Diane appeared to escort them out. As Ryan walked toward the door, he turned back once more. David. I'm sorry. About Christmas. About everything. I know, I replied. We'll talk soon. After Ryan and Jessica left, Marcus looked at me with something like awe. That was the most restrained power move I've ever witnessed, he said. It wasn't a power move. It was an interview. David, you just interviewed your brother who uninvited you from Christmas for being too poor, while sitting at the head of a conference table as COO of a billion-dollar company. That's the definition of a power move. Patricia was more pragmatic. Setting aside the family drama, how do we want to proceed with his application? Because honestly, he interviewed well. His answers were solid. He has the experience we need. Agreed, I said. If he wasn't my brother, would we move forward with him? Probably, she admitted. He'd need training on our technology, but his sales fundamentals are strong. Then we evaluate him like any other candidate. No special treatment either way. Marcus nodded slowly. You're serious about this? I'm serious about running this company well. Personal feelings don't override good business decisions. If Ryan is qualified and would be an asset to our sales team, we should hire him. If he's not, we shouldn't. It's that simple. And if we do hire him? Patricia asked. He'd be working here while dealing with this family situation. That could get complicated. Then we set boundaries. Clear professional expectations. If he can maintain them, fine. If he can't, that's a performance issue like any other. What I didn't say was that I'd already decided. Ryan had interviewed well enough to deserve an offer, but I wanted him to sweat for a few days first. I wanted him to sit with the realization of how thoroughly he'd misjudged me. Not for revenge. For growth. His and mine. My phone started ringing 20 minutes after Ryan left the building. Ryan, we need to talk. Please. Mom, Ryan just called me in tears. What happened at his interview? What's going on? Dad, I'm very confused. Ryan says you're the COO of the company he interviewed at? Is that true? Jessica. David, this is Jessica. I owe you an enormous apology. Can we please talk? I silenced all notifications and went to my next meeting, a contract review with our legal team for a $9.5 million deal with a financial services company. Business continued. That evening, I finally returned calls. I started with my parents, putting them on speaker together. David, what is going on? Mom demanded immediately. Ryan is devastated. He says you're the COO of TechCorp? He says the company is worth over $1 billion. That's all accurate, Mom. Why didn't you tell us? You never asked. You assumed I was unsuccessful because I didn't drive a luxury car or brag about my salary. I let you assume. Silence on the other end. How long? Dad asked quietly. How long have you been successful? I've been with TechCorp for 7 years. We've been growing consistently for the past 5. I became COO 18 months ago. My equity stake in the company is worth approximately $4 to $9 million. My salary is just under $500,000 annually. $4 to $9 million. Mom's voice was faint. On paper, yes. Not liquid. But real. And you never said anything. Mom, at Ryan's wedding 3 months ago, Jessica told me to stand up straight and look successful for the photos. At Dad's birthday last year, you explained to your friends that I worked in computers with a tone that suggested I was barely employed. At every family dinner for the past 5 years, you've offered to help me find a real job in pharmaceutical sales. We were trying to help, Dad said weakly. No, you were trying to make me fit your definition of success. When I didn't, you dismissed me. And when Ryan wanted to impress Jessica's family, you agreed I should be excluded from Christmas because my poverty would be embarrassing. David, we didn't know. That's exactly the problem. You didn't know because you never asked. You never took my career seriously. You never considered that maybe I knew what I was doing, or that my path might lead somewhere you couldn't see. More silence. Are you going to hire Ryan? Mom asked finally. That's a business decision I'll make based on his qualifications, not our family relationship. He's qualified, Dad said quickly. Ryan is a good salesman. He is. Which is why we're considering him. But if we do hire him, it will be because he earned it professionally, not because he's my brother. Can we see you? Before Christmas. Mom's voice broke slightly. Please. I'll come to dinner this week. But Mom, I need you to understand something. This isn't about punishing you. This is about me refusing to apologize for being successful in a way you didn't recognize. We should have recognized it, Dad said quietly. We should have asked. We failed you, David. It was the first truly honest thing my father had said to me in years. 3 days later, I had dinner at my parents' house. Just the 4 of us, Mom, Dad, Ryan, and me. Jessica wasn't invited. This was family business. The house looked the same as always. Leased luxury cars in the driveway. Expensive furniture bought on credit. The performance of success without the substance. But when I walked in, something was different. Mom hugged me tightly, crying. Dad gripped my shoulder and couldn't quite meet my eyes. Ryan sat at the dining room table looking like he'd aged 5 years in 3 days. I've been doing a lot of thinking, Ryan said as we sat down. About assumptions. About success. About what I thought mattered. And I prompted. I was wrong. About everything. I thought success meant the right car, the right apartment, the right connections. I thought I had it figured out because I looked successful. Meanwhile, you were actually building something real, and I couldn't even see it. To be fair, I replied, I didn't help you see it. I deliberately kept it private. But why? Mom asked. Why wouldn't you tell us? At first, because I was busy and it didn't seem important. But later? Because your assumptions revealed something true about your values. You measured worth by appearance. You valued performance over substance. I wanted to see how long it would take you to ask real questions about my life instead of making judgments. That seems almost cruel, Dad said. Maybe. But is it more cruel than uninviting your son from Christmas because he might embarrass the family? Ryan flinched. I regret that text every single day. I've read it probably 100 times, trying to figure out what I was thinking. You were thinking that Jessica's family's opinion mattered more than mine. That impressing them was more important than including me. That's what you were thinking, and you were wrong. I was, Ryan said quietly. And I don't know how to fix it. We ate in uncomfortable silence for a few minutes. Then Mom set down her fork. I've spent the last 3 days thinking about every interaction we've had with you over the past 5 years, she said. Every dismissive comment. Every time we offered to help you find a real job. Every time we prioritized Ryan's appearance of success over your actual achievements. It wasn't just you, I said. It's society. It's how we're taught to measure success. Ryan chased those metrics because they are visible and validated. I chose a different path. But you were successful, Dad said. More successful than any of us realized. I was. But that's not the point. The point is that my success should never have been a requirement for respect or inclusion. You should have valued me regardless of my net worth or job title. Ryan looked at me directly. Are you going to hire me? Do you want me to? I don't know anymore. Part of me wants the job because it's incredible, great salary, equity, the chance to work at a company that's actually changing its industry. But another part of me thinks maybe I don't deserve it. That I need to figure out who I am outside of sales commissions and impressive job titles. It was the most self-aware thing I'd ever heard my brother say. What does Jessica think? I asked. Ryan's jaw tightened. Jessica is reevaluating a lot of things. Including our marriage. Her family's opinion of the Martinezes has shifted. They're very interested in meeting you. Her father wants to talk about potential business partnerships between Monroe Auto and TechCorp's corporate fleet management. And Jessica is realizing she married me for the wrong reasons. And I'm realizing I married her for the wrong reasons. We're in counseling. I nodded slowly. For what it's worth, I think that's healthy. Better to figure it out now than 10 years and 2 kids from now. Are you going to take her father's call? Ryan asked. Probably. If there's a legitimate business opportunity, I'll explore it. But not to fix your marriage or impress your in-laws. Only if it makes sense for Tech Corp. Mom reached across the table and took my hand. I'm so sorry, David. For all of it. For judging you. For dismissing you. For not seeing you. I forgive you, Mom. But forgiveness doesn't mean everything goes back to how it was. Our relationship has to be rebuilt on different terms. What terms? Dad asked. Honesty. Respect. Asking questions instead of making assumptions. Valuing substance over appearance. Can you do that? They both nodded. Then we start there. 2 weeks later, on Christmas Eve, I had dinner with my parents and Ryan. Jessica was spending the holiday with her family, giving her and Ryan space to figure things out. It wasn't the big family gathering Ryan had planned. The Monroes weren't there to be impressed. There were no performances of success, no carefully curated Instagram photos. Just 4 people eating ham and trying to be honest with each other. I have something for you, I said to Ryan after dinner, handing him an envelope. He opened it carefully. Inside was a formal offer letter from Tech Corp. Position, Enterprise Sales Representative. Base salary, $120,000. Commission structure, uncapped, averaging $80,000 to $150,000 annually for top performers. Equity grant, 0.015% of company stock, vesting over 4 years. Ryan stared at the letter. You're hiring me. You interviewed well. Patricia thinks you have strong potential. Marcus agrees. The job is yours if you want it, but with conditions. What conditions? First, we maintain strict professional boundaries at work. You report to Patricia, not to me. Any favoritism or family drama gets addressed immediately. Second, you earn your place on the team through performance, not through our relationship. Third, if this doesn't work out professionally, we separate the family relationship from the work relationship. I can do that, Ryan said. I will do that. Then you start January 15th. Welcome to Tech Corp. Ryan looked at the offer letter, then at me. Why? After everything I did, why are you giving me this chance? Because you're qualified. Because I believe in evaluating people fairly. And because despite everything, you're my brother. I can be angry about your choices and still recognize your potential. He started crying. Not dramatic tears, just quiet acknowledgement of the gift he'd been given. I won't let you down, he said. See that you don't. 6 months later, Ryan had proven himself. He'd closed 3 significant contracts, built strong client relationships, and learned our technology inside and out. He worked harder than he'd ever worked in pharmaceutical sales, driven by something more than commission, the need to prove he deserved to be there. His marriage to Jessica didn't survive. They divorced quietly, both acknowledging they'd married for status rather than love. It was painful but ultimately healthy. My relationship with my parents improved slowly. They started asking real questions about my work. They stopped offering unsolicited career advice. They learned to value authenticity over appearance. And I learned something too, that the best power reversal isn't humiliation. It's growth. Ryan didn't need to be destroyed by the revelation of my success. He needed to be challenged by it. Forced to confront his values and his assumptions. Given the opportunity to become someone better. That Christmas Eve dinner, quiet, honest, stripped of performance, was more valuable than any dramatic confrontation could have been. Because real success isn't about proving others wrong. It's about building something meaningful and having the confidence to let your work speak for itself. The rest is just noise. And in the silence of genuine achievement, I'd finally found peace.